Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. Today I'm going to be discussing the Busch family. It's going to be part 3. This is going to conclude the lineage of the Busch family that owned Budweiser beer. The successor to August Busch the Sr. was Adolphus Busch III, born February 10, 1891, died August 29, 1946. Was president and CEO of Anheuser-Busch from 1934 to 1946. He joined the family business of the Anheuser-Busch Company and developed its Baker's yeast operations into the nation's leader. He served as president from 1934 to 1946, died August 29, 1946 at Barnes Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri, of cerebral hemorrhage. His younger brother took over Budweiser, August Busch Jr., and that's what I'm going to be discussing in a minute, just trying to get a little information off of Wikipedia about him. I have a St. Louis Cardinals program from 1983 that I acquired when I went to a Cardinals game. I was visiting out in Missouri. It was against the Montreal Expos, which are now the Washington Nationals. And, sorry, I dropped something. And they were playing Montreal, and remember the Cardinals got wiped out, but the one highlight of the game was the fact that the Cardinals got a triple play on the Expos. That was a highlight of the game. And here is a picture of August Busch Jr. and his son that succeeded him, August Busch III. August Anheuser Gussie, nicknamed Busch Jr., was born March 28, 1899, died September 29, 1989. Built the Anheuser-Busch companies into the largest brewery in the world by 1957 as company chairman from 1946 to 1975. Became a prominent sportsman as owner of the St. Louis Cardinals franchise in Major League Baseball from 1953 until his death. The Cardinals inducted him into the Team Hall of Fame in 2014. Starting at lower levels to learn the family business of Anheuser-Busch Company, Busch became superintendent of brewing operations in 1924 and head of the brewing division after his father's death in 1934. After his older brother Adolphus Busch III's death in 1946, August A. Jr. succeeded him as president and CEO. He led the company to become the largest brewery in the world by 1957, having previously competed with Pabst and Schlitz for the top spot. He expanded it from a single site in St. Louis to operate 9 separate breweries nationwide. By 1973, Anheuser-Busch had aggregate beer sales of 26,522,000 barrels. In 1964, under his leadership, production at the St. Louis facility reached the 10 million barrels per year mark. Described as a showman and salesman, he began using a Clydesdale team in 1933, putting them into service to commemorate the end of Prohibition by having the team haul the first case of Budweiser down Pennsylvania Avenue for delivery to President Franklin D. Roosevelt at the White House. He made their image part of the company logo and had them appear regularly at public events. In May 1975, Busch was forced to step down as CEO and chairman of the company after a boardroom coup led by his son, August Busch III. He had become increasingly difficult to work with due to his grief of loss of his youngest daughter at the end of 1974. He was allowed to remain president of the Cardinals and use the company perks associated with the job only if he represented the move as voluntary on his part. A year after being forced out, Busch considered working with the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company on a hostile takeover in an attempt to regain his leadership, but decided he could not be the one to take the company away from the family. A move that was not made public for 10 years. The extent to which Busch had been sidelined too was not publicly known during his lifetime. Divisions in the Busch family resulting in the coup persisted long afterwards, playing a part in InBev's 2008 takeover of the company. In 1953, Cardinals owner Fred Say was convicted of tax evasion, facing almost certain banishment from baseball. He put the Cardinals up for sale. When Busch got word that Say was seriously considered selling the team to interests who would move the team to Houston, he decided to have Anheuser-Busch get into the bidding in order to keep the Cardinals in St. Louis. Ultimately, Busch persuaded Say to take less money, $3.75 million, than what he was being offered by out-of-town interests in the name of civic pride, and also achieved a marketing tool. As president and CEO of the Cardinals from the time the club was purchased by the brewery in 1953 until his death, Busch oversaw a team that won 6 National League pennants, 64, 67, 68, 82, 85, and 87, and 3 World Series, 1964, 1967, 1982, when his son August Busch III ousted him as president of Anheuser-Busch. The elder Busch remained as president of the Cardinals. Although the Cardinals were the dominant baseball team in St. Louis, they did not own their own ballpark. Since 1920, they had rented Sportsman's Park from the St. Louis Browns of the American League. Shortly after buying the Cardinals, Busch bought and extensively renovated the park, renaming it Busch Stadium, but only after a failed attempt to rename it as Budweiser Stadium. The team played there until Busch Memorial Stadium was built in the middle of the 1966 season. In 1984, the Cardinals retired at number 85 in Busch's honor, which was his age at the time. He was married 4 times, had a total of 11 children. 2 of his marriages ended in divorce, and his fourth wife, the former Margaret Road, died in 1988. At the time of his death, his surviving children, with marriage names Carol Busch Giersch of Pasadena, California, and Lily Busch Herman, wife of Bob Herman of St. Louis, both daughters of the late Mrs. Marie Church Busch, August A. Busch III of St. Louis, and Elizabeth Busch Burke of Middleburg, Virginia, both children of the late Elizabeth Overton Busch, and Adolphus A. Busch IV and Beatrice Busch von Gontard, both in St. Louis, Peter W. Busch of Vero Beach, Florida, and Trudy Busch Valentine, William K. Busch, and Andrew D. Busch of St. Louis. All 6 of the children of Gertrude Buholzer Busch. His youngest child, daughter Christina Martina Busch, died at the age of 8 in a car accident while on her way home from school in 1974. Busch died in St. Louis on September 29, 1989, at age 90 of pneumonia. Fred Kuhlman took over as Cardinals team president 7 years later in 1996. Anheuser-Busch sold the Cardinals to a group of investors led by William DeWitt Jr. In 2014, the Cardinals announced Busch among 22 former players and personnel to be inducted in the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame for the inaugural class of 2014. And we go to August Busch III. Was born June 16, 1937, and was the company's chairman until November 30, 2006. August Busch III is informally known as Augie, and is the third or 3 sticks by subordinates and employees at Anheuser-Busch. He is the father of August Busch IV. He was born in St. Louis. He attended the University of Arizona but dropped out after failing. His father gave him an ultimatum, and he began working as an entry-level position in Anheuser-Busch. He served as president of Anheuser-Busch Companies from 1974 to June 2002 and chief executive officer of ABC from 1975 until June 2002. He was chairman of the board of directors of ABC from 1977 to 2006. He succeeded as the day-to-day operational head of Anheuser-Busch by Patrick Stokes. Stokes' tenure marked the time in history of the company that a non-Busch family member ran the day-to-day operations. Busch also conferred the chairmanship to Stokes effective December 1st, 2006. He retired from their executive functions at the company on November 30, 2006. He was director of AT&T Incorporated since October. He has been director of AT&T Incorporated since October of 1983. He served as director of Southwestern Bell Telephone Company from 1980 to 1983, CEO of SBC AT&T. Ed Whitaker simultaneously served on the board of AB. They were joined on both boards by Charlie Knight, the CEO of Emerson Electric. Whitaker also served on the board of Emerson. Busch voted to approve $111 million to pay for Whitaker in a 5-year period. Busch is chairman of the Anheuser-Busch Corporate Governance and Nominating Committee and member of the Corporate Development Committee and the Executive Committee. As of 2007, Busch remains a director of Emerson Electric Company. He was married twice. And we'll see what I can get on August Busch the 4th. August Adolphus Busch, born June 15, 1964, is an American businessman and former CEO of Anheuser-Busch. He was the last of the family to control the company, which was purchased in a hostile takeover in 2008 by InBev. That's kind of interesting. He was born in St. Louis. His parents divorced when he was 5. He lived with his mother. His time with his father was spent mostly at the brewery, and their relationship was for the most part professional. After graduating in 1982 from Parkway West High School in Baldwin, Missouri, Busch studied as an undergraduate at the University of Arizona, but left before completing his degree. Later earned an MBA and bachelor's degree, magna cum laude, in finance from St. Louis University. He has a Brewing on the Spot certificate from VLB Berlin. 2002, Busch and other family members were passed over when the company named Patrick Stokes as their first non-family president and CEO. Busch's father had said that he owns 1% of the stock, and the board of directors called the shot at the company. Busch became president and CEO effective December 2006. Busch's father had been criticized for not expanding globally and leaving the company open for acquisition. In 2007, August and directors began discussions to acquire Diageo, but the deal never advanced. On July 13, 2008, he signed off on the sale of Anheuser to InBev. Ending 156 years of family control, the deal officially closed on November 18, 2008, just as the late 2000s recession was beginning. And that's basically what I was able to get on the history of the Busch family. I did discuss the St. Louis Browns a while back. That was what I had mentioned about the Cardinals having to rent out Sportsman Park that was owned by the Browns, and I did do one on that a few years ago. And this concludes the series on what I was able to get on the Busch family that owned Anheuser-Busch and the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team. As always, like, subscribe, share, looking for a partner. As always, thanks for watching.